Hi, I'm Dr. Asatar Bear from Meditation 2.0, where inner peace meets modern life. I got this interesting question from one of my students, which where he said, I feel like focusing on my breath too much in my meditations make me feel anxious and distracted, and not as mindful. I feel worse when I focus more on my breath and than when I don't. But I was told that meditation is about focusing on your breath. What do I do? All right, so this is a great question, and it has two parts to it. And the first part is about breath, and the second part, as I hear it, is about concentration, the act of focusing your mind. Breath is the great lever of self-change. Well, there's bad breathing and there's good breathing, all right? Bad breathing makes you anxious and upset, right? Good breathing makes you feel calm, peaceful, at rest, and ultimately integrates all aspects of your being. So at this point, there's pretty broad consensus among scientists and doctors and meditation teachers as well about what constitutes good breathing. All right, it has a couple of elements. Okay, so good breathing, it involves breathing deep in your belly, diaphragmatic breathing. So when you breathe in, your belly expands, and when you breathe out, your belly contracts or gets smaller. Good breathing is rhythmic, right? So that means that there's a repeated pattern to your breathing. So for example, that your inhalation and your exhalation are the same length. And that your breathing should be smooth, that it should flow, that it should be uninterrupted. There shouldn't be a lot of pauses in your breath, right? That would also make it arrhythmic, right? So we could summarize that by saying your breath should be, smooth, rhythmic, and deep. What's bad breathing? Well, bad breathing is the opposite, of course, right? When your breath is high up in your chest, right? That's also called thoracic breathing. And your breath is arrhythmic when there's pauses or interruptions, when you hold your breath, or your cycle does not repeat evenly, cleanly, your breath isn't smooth. That's bad breathing. So why is it bad? Well, it triggers your sympathetic nervous system, right? That's the fight or flight response, and a whole host of stress-related hormones and chemicals get released in your body. And it also messes up an important balance in your blood, which is the balance between CO2 and oxygen. And this puts you into a situation where you're in hypocapnia, which then causes hypoxia. That's where your brain and your tissues are literally starved of oxygen. They do not have enough carbon dioxide for your blood to have the proper pH in order to metabolize the oxygen. So that's all complicated, but what matters is you can see this very clearly. Your brain actually can have up to 40% less oxygen in it, and it's going to function much worse in that situation. If you breathe well, deeply, rhythmically, smoothly, and so on, you're going to avoid hypocapnia, and you also cause a wave-like fluctuation in your heart rate variability. That is, your heart rate speeds up and slows down in a smooth wave-like action in tune with your breath. And that triggers your parasympathetic nervous system. So that's what the great meditation research pioneer, Dr. Herbert Benson, calls the relaxation response. You want that to be triggered, right? The disease of modern life is that our fight or flight response is always stuck on. That's what chronic stress is. You need a way of relaxing. And if you're breathing badly, especially if you're breathing badly during meditation, you're not going to get that effect, all right? Now, meditation teachers differ on how to approach good breathing, right? Everyone agrees on what good breathing is. Some teachers take a much more passive approach, believing that your body has its own wisdom, and that if you sit still and be calm, your breath will eventually, on its own, it will attain this good breathing pattern. It will become slower, it will become more rhythmic, and it'll naturally settle down until you're breathing down deep in your belly. So a couple of examples of teachers who take this approach are Jack Kornfield, Thich Nhat Hanh, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who's the founder of Transcendental Meditation. Now, some teachers take a very different approach, believing that bad breathing is such a serious impediment to meditation that it has to be tackled head on, right? It has to be basically eliminated right away. Otherwise, you're not going to get much out of the meditation, or it'll take you a long time to get to a place where you could get to very quickly if you just retrained your breath. So a couple of examples of teachers who fall into this more active camp are Andrew Weil, Yogi Bhajan, BKS Iyengar. So, when you study meditation, you'll see there are a lot of different kinds of breathing techniques that are out there. In yoga, it's called Pranayama, which literally means breath discipline, or it also means energy discipline, or energy control, breath control. And there's lots of different kinds of pranayama techniques in yoga. The point of these techniques is twofold. So first, breathing has a big impact on your consciousness. So by practicing breathing techniques, you discover that. And then you are able to employ breathing as a technique to affect your consciousness, right? That's what we're interested in. And the second thing is that by training your breath, by making your breath conscious, you will help. Most of the time you're not going to be aware of your breath. Even if you meditate a lot, there's going to be a good portion of your day where you're not paying attention to it. Your breath is unconscious. And by training your breath intensively, you're going to make your unconscious breathing, you're going to have an impact on that as well. You're going to make that more optimal. All right. So which approach to breathing should you take? Well, you should listen to your teacher, right? If you don't have a meditation teacher, you can try things out and see what appeals to you, or you can, see what appeals to you philosophically. Do you find yourself more on the passive side or more on the active side? Neither one is better or worse, but there are different temperaments. So you have to see what is right for you. And you also, you could try it out and see what happens, right? So meditation is like a great laboratory with you as the subject, right? But you can still be scientific about it, right? Even though, your sample size is one. So the second issue here isn't so much about breathing, it's about concentration, right? And what I hear in this question is that it sounds a bit like you expect meditation to be easy, to be, like relaxing. Not necessarily. Meditation involves concentrating your mind. It involves focusing your mind. That is work. That's going to feel like work. Your mind doesn't want to be focused, right? Your mind wants to just float around and do whatever. So if you want something that's going to be relaxing and easy, take a nap. Don't meditate. Take a nap. If you want something that's going to really change you, then meditate, right? Taking a nap is not going to change you really, right? Meditation will. Practicing a breathing technique is a great way of focusing your mind, right? Because you have a built-in mechanism that tells you when you're messing up, which is, if you're practicing a breathing technique, particularly one that is difficult, it requires your concentration to do it, it's a little bit like changing how you walk, right? You walk a certain way. If you wanted to change that, you would have to focus on it. And then you would know when you stopped focusing on it because you would go back to your established pattern, right? The same thing with breathing techniques. You have a way of breathing that you're used to. Changing that way of breathing takes work. But it can be very fruitful because it keeps your mind focused, right? And that teaches you a really important lesson in meditation. Concentration is the cornerstone, right? It's the beginning of the journey. It's vital. It's not the end of the journey. There's a lot more to meditation than focusing your mind, but you need to get good at that, right? So part of, I think, what I hear in this question is a little bit of resistance to that, right? What may be causing you anxiety, aggravation, feeling of not being mindful, is having this standard that tells you, when you're messing up. That brings it into very sharp relief when your mind is wandering, right? And what you're going to notice is your mind wanders a lot, and that's an uncomfortable realization. But look, meditation is about uncovering the truth of yourself, the truth of your being. So your mind wanders. That's true of us all. It just means you're at the beginning of your journey of concentration. Concentration is like a skill. It's much like a muscle. Keep at it, and your concentration will get much, much better. So if you feel more drawn towards the passive approach, like I mentioned earlier, try this out as a practice, all right? When you sit down to meditate, try to relax, try to breathe normally, all right? You might have it in the back of your mind that you want to breathe down deep in your belly and breathe rhythmically and so on. But you know what? Just try to relax. That's the more passive way of doing this. And then just think to yourself, who is thinking? Okay? Adopt that question. Take that question into your mind, into your heart. Who is thinking? Right? Keep asking yourself that question. Who is thinking? You'll discover a lot by asking that question, all right? And you'll also know very clearly when you become distracted, right? Because you'll lose track of that. You'll go off on some chain of thought, and you'll forget to ask who is thinking. If you feel drawn toward a more active kind of approach, a more active practice, then try this out. Place your hand on your belly, right? And just breathe in and out, okay? Notice your belly rising and falling. And try to breathe in for a count of 8 and breathe out for a count of 8. Now focus all of your attention on the breath, okay? Notice, what does the beginning of your inhalation feel like? What does the middle of your inhalation feel like? What does the end feel like? Then go to the exhalation. What does the beginning of your exhalation feel like? What does the middle feel like? What does the end feel like? Try to be incredibly open to every sensation that happens in your breathing process. Don't worry about a question or a visualization or whatever. Just focus on that technique, getting really good at that technique, okay? And whenever you're going to have the same kind of issue, you'll probably forget to do it. You'll come back to it. You'll remember to do it, and then you'll have to reestablish that rhythm, come back to it, and do it again, right? So for some people, the more passive approach is going to work better. For some people, the more active approach. Every kind of meditation is about the same thing. It's about discovering your true nature. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'm Dr. Asatar Bear. Namaste.